Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of Enlightened Entrepreneurs. Today's interview is sponsored by World Outsourcing Solutions, a company based here in the United Kingdom that specializes in providing business owners with outsourcing services. I'm Yokai Kechidore and I'm super excited to be having my friend Alison talk to us about PR. If you're a business owner like myself, you understand the importance of getting the right PR. And today, you're going to discover how to do it properly. We've entitled our interview today is Getting Started with PR, the critical skills every business owner needs to have and develop. Alison, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Incredible. It's so good to have you here all the way from US, and you're going to be teaching us how to do these things. Now, Alison is the president and the CEO of Alison May Public Relations. She is a former news reporter who has worked throughout the Northeast, a television station in New York, in Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. Now, Alison has used her expertise in journalism to educate her clients in media training and crisis communication. There is a whole lot of information here about Alison, but I'll let you talk to our audience about them in a moment. So to get us started, Alison, who is Alison?
Who is Alison? That's a good question. So I'm as you mentioned, I'm a former journalist. So I was able to, interview some very interesting people and cover some amazing stories. I consider myself a storyteller, which is a great transition to go from TV reporter to a public relations expert because I still get to tell my clients' stories to the media. I'm first and foremost a mom of three beautiful little girls, so that's my number one priority. And I'm a hard worker and a little obsessed with the news. I was just telling someone earlier today that when I was little, if I would get in trouble, my parents would say, "You can't watch the news tonight, Alison." So I'm kind of a little bit of a dork because while other kids were watching, Saved by the Bell or cartoons, I was watching the news. So that's kind of me. I'm a little bit of a dork, but I'm proud of it. And
That's beautiful. And one of the things I like about you've been seen on Dr. Ozzy and you've been quoted multiple times on a lot of news outlets. How does it feel? And talk to us, from the person who does it.
It's funny because I always try and pitch my clients to be on the media. So, and I always tell them, how to prep. And I'm usually the one pitching them. So it's definitely different to be on the other side and be the one who's being interviewed. So it's definitely a different feeling. I always like to just focus on getting my clients media exposure rather than myself, but somehow I've ended up in the media spotlight. But, just to be able to be that expert and to give business owners and, entrepreneurs, speakers, anybody who needs media exposure some tips, because public relations is really difficult. A lot of people don't even really know what it is. So if I can give them tips and tricks on how to just get that initial media exposure, then I feel like I've done my job for the day.
Incredible. Now, before we actually talk about the media as per se, we always want to talk about you as a business owner first and get to hear how you do your business, because you are actually running your business, especially for the last 3 years. You've become an entrepreneur, so to speak, and then we move on to the strategies or those critical skills. So tell us, what triggered you to say, I'm going to stop working for someone else. I want to do it for myself.
Yeah, I wish I had this grand plan and story, but I literally woke up one day and said, I'm going to start my own PR company. It was not, I have friends who are entrepreneurs and, they had lemonade stands and they always wanted to run a business and work for themselves. I never ever thought that I would be doing this. Right. I worked for a marketing agency for a while and I wanted to do a little bit more on the PR side because that was my passion. And it really was just one morning. And so I said, all right, how am I going to do this? And I reached out to a good friend who owns a marketing firm and was also in TV. And I said, I want to start my own business. How do I do this? And he gave me all the tools from what I needed to do, from business insurance to start a website. And I got my first client, and from there I grew, and that was 3 years ago. So I started with one local client, and now I have international clients. It's blown up, which is great, but I would not have been able to do it if it wasn't for the support of a friend who owns his own marketing firm, who I'm partners with, because he's guided me into where I need to go and, given me the tools to grow. So I owe that. And I tell a lot of people who are looking to start their own business, it's important to find a mentor. Whether you're 9 or you're 90, you need to have somebody who you can count on, that you can bounce ideas off of, that you can cry to, that you can yell to, that will be by your side and help you through the process of owning a business and being an entrepreneur, because it really sounds like a glamorous job, but as you know, it is a very difficult job. It's 24/7. There's no vacation. When you are on vacation, you have your phone with you, and it's hard to let go of that. So it's definitely not for everyone, but if you are an entrepreneur, you definitely know the amount of work that goes into it.
Absolutely. It's glamorous when the money begins to come in, but the journey to get there, often is filled with twists and turns, ups and downs, and you just have to have the emotional stamina to go through all that rigors until you get to the final place. But of course, you can enjoy the process. I wouldn't change it for anything in the world.
Exactly. You're spot on. It's a roller coaster ride, but I can't imagine doing anything else.
Incredible. You touched on a very important aspect there, Alison, about having a mentor. Now, suppose somebody already is at a place where they want to have a mentor. What criteria can they use in identifying the right person to work with? Maybe you can give us an example how you identified your friend.
Yeah, I think you find somebody that you can relate to, that you admire. Right. So I had a friend, and not an extremely close friend, but just because we had worked in the television business and I followed him on social media, and I sent him an email and, just kind of started that conversation, and he was ready to, say, let's have coffee. I'll help you. Anything I can do to help you. So whoever you admire or you follow in business, and you don't have to know them, I have a friend who reached out to somebody in California because they wanted to get into their type of business, and they emailed them. They've never met them in their life, and now they have this great relationship. And I always put myself in their position. If somebody reached out to me and said, I really admire you, and I was hoping to, pick your brain, and how can I grow, and what can I do, I would absolutely love to help them. So when you're questioning, I don't know, they're too busy for me, or maybe they don't even know me, all you can do is ask, send that email, pick up the phone, because you'd be surprised how many people want to help other people, especially, business owners or looking, people who are looking to grow their business.
Absolutely, Alison. I discovered this, I wish I had discovered earlier on, but later on, I think in 2010, that successful business owners, they want to help you because they themselves experience the difficulties of running a business. They know that somebody helped them out, so they want to pay it forward. Gosh, when I had that change of mind that people want to help me and I reached out to people, it was a game changer for me.
You're right. And when I reached out to Kyle, he had been in business for a couple of years. So he said, I'm going to tell you everything, all the mistakes I made. So you're going to avoid making all of those mistakes that I made. And so now I'm able to tell my interns or whoever it is who I speak with the mistakes I made. And, so if you can help somebody, avoid doing the things that you did or give them some guidance, it just makes you feel good because you're helping someone.
Absolutely. We are grateful for business owners who are open to help others, at this point. And if you are listening and you are looking to reach out, just go for it. You'll be surprised at what could come your way. Alison, coming back to you, how do you market your business in this noisy environment?
Yeah, you're right. It's very, very noisy, and it's getting worse. I've never advertised, and I rarely go to networking events. What I do, actually what my mentor told me to do, is I write a lot of content. I do video blogs, and I've been speaking at conferences. So I want to provide as much value and information to people looking for help in PR that I can. And by me putting articles out there, doing video blogs, putting it on LinkedIn, social media, live Facebook feeds, people are watching and they're sharing and they're reading. And by me putting that information out there, people see me as an expert and say, can we sit down and talk? So Absolutely. It's an interesting way to get business. I just want to provide value, and people realize, wow, she actually knows what she's talking about. And it's been the number one way that I've been able to get business.
Absolutely. If you can stand out in your marketplace as the go-to person, it's amazing how people keep coming to you, and you have to select that I want to work with this person and I want to work with this person. It's an amazing feeling.
It is.
Incredible. Yeah, taking you on to the subject we are really talking about, the PR. Are there any misconception around this subject that you want to clear up before we get into the meat of our conversation?
Yeah, good question. So a lot of times people always say any press is good press.
Right.
I disagree on that. Yes, you want press, but negative press you never want. And I mean, if you're a business owner and you're arrested for drinking and driving, or you're a restaurant owner and a bunch of people get sick from your food, you obviously don't want that press.
No.
And it's really hard to control the message for that. So no, not all press is good press. And I think the other thing is that people think that public relations experts can control what the media says. So when we work with reporters, we can't give them questions. We can't tell them how to write the story or how to do the story. We can hopefully guide them in the way we want the story to come out, but we can never tell them how to do their job. So, unfortunately, we can't write this. Sometimes I would like to write the story. Sometimes I watch the news and say, oh gosh, well, that's not exactly how we wanted it to come out. I would have written it differently or reported on it differently, but unfortunately, we can only control what we can control. So those are the two big misconceptions I think that people have about public relations.
Incredible. I'm glad you clarified that. There is also another issue around, crisis plan. I know you help business owners around that. Maybe we can touch on it a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't care if you're a business of 2 or 2,000, everybody should have a crisis plan.
Yes.
Especially now with social media. I mean, I consider if you have a negative review, you need to know how to respond to it and what to do and what not to do. And when people are talking negatively about your own business, of course you take it to heart. And so you have to take the emotion out and look at everything. So whether the press is calling you, what do you do if something happens, if there's a lawsuit or whatever it may be, you need to know how to handle the press, who's to speak to the press, what do you say, what do you not say. And so I think it's essential. And, you can certainly look online and find out how to just do a basic crisis plan. But it's important when you have employees to communicate that message to the employees, because all you need is for an incident to happen and then the media calls and one of the employees starts talking to the media, and that's not the message you want to get out there. So it's very, very important to have a crisis plan for every and any business.
Absolutely. I'm glad you pointed out, to us, because, when I was starting, I thought I would start doing that later on when the company is bigger. But now, more than ever, if you have it in the beginning of your business, you won't be reacting, but you are in control of the whole thing. And, your team will know exactly what needs to happen.
Absolutely.
Outstanding. Alison, in your experience with dealing with business owners, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see when it comes to PR?
Oh boy, there's a lot. One of the things is that they don't understand the timeliness of the media. So when we're pitching a story to the media, usually if the media responds, they need to do the interview that day. It's not something they would set up the next day or in the evening. They'll call you at 10 in the morning and say, can we come by around 11:30? So to explain that to our clients, and obviously when we start with them, we always kind of give them all of the details about this is how it's going to work. But to know that if you have a lunch appointment, you should probably reschedule that unless, something major is happening. Because what they also don't think is that when there's a media interview happening, it really only takes a half hour. It's not this extensive, 2 to 3 hour thing. They're in and they're out and they ask you the questions and they get the video and that's it. So that's one of the things. And the other thing is that a lot of times when we're pitching stories, it's not all about them. It's not all about the company. They're just going to be a part of the story. Right. And so while the media may be here for 20 minutes, they may only use 10 seconds of your interview. And that's okay. That doesn't mean that you did a bad job with the interview or the story wasn't good. You're a part of the story. And we want to pitch our clients as experts. So the media will call them time and time again when there's something relevant about their industry, and they can reach, through and talk to this accountant or to the big data expert or to the principal of the school.
Exactly.
So, just know it's not all about your company and your product. It's a part of it, but it's not all about you, because the media really wants to tell a story. They don't want to advertise you and just talk all about you.
Outstanding, truly outstanding. I'm glad you're pointing these things out, for anyone who is starting out to know these things ahead of time. Literally is a time saver, because if you don't know this, you run around and you get into all sorts of muddle up, that is not necessary.
Yes.
On a different subject, maybe, or the one that I know that the audience really wants to know. If somebody is looking to get started with the PR, what would you say are the necessary skills or the very first thing they need to do?
Great question. What they should do is start small and start basically establishing relationships with their local journalists. Right. So newspaper reporters, TV reporters, follow them on social media, start sharing their stories and content, and email them. Introduce yourself. Who are you and what you do, and why would they want to interview you? And, start forming those relationships with the local press and follow news trends in your industry. So, for example, today or yesterday, Instagram announced that it's doing live feeds now, just like Facebook. So if you're a social media expert, you want to talk to the media about that. So the media is going to be talking about that, and they always want to localize a national or international story. So if they have somebody they can go to, then they're going to talk to you. So take that news story, send it to them, say, I know, as Instagram just announced their live feeds. I'm a social media expert. I can talk to you about X, Y, and Z. And, I'm available all day today. Here's my information. Here's my website. And send it off to them. So, start small. Start paying attention to things that are going on in your industry and establish those relationships with the media. And read all about, there's so many blogs out there and video blogs about how to pitch yourself to the media, how to write a press release, how to establish the relationships with the media.
Incredible. Why is this so important, Alison, to get started small?
Yeah, you start small, and then you also get, you get experience working with the media, speaking to them. And, sometimes it could be a small TV station, and that story will get shared, and you could all of a sudden have international attention. Thank goodness for social media, because it takes on a life of its own if it's a good enough story.
Absolutely. I like the way you simplify things, because as a business owner, I can see myself doing that. A matter of just sending a message to my local media here, it's doable, and I really appreciate you sharing that. Assuming, Alison, you've got that covered, what other skill do business owner needs to develop just to harness the power of PR?
Yeah, so after they get, the initial exposure, you want to make sure that you share out the coverage. A lot of people don't do that. So use all your social media platforms to share out that news story. But make sure when you're sharing it, you're tagging the reporter, the news outlet, if it's the editor of the newspaper or the media outlet, if there's a videographer there and they're on social media, tag everyone and put it out on every social media platform you have: LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you're being interviewed by the media and you have a Snapchat account, have somebody from your office take some video of that. You want to promote it. And then after you promote it, you want to make sure that you say thank you to the media outlet. A lot of times, especially being a former journalist, usually the only time we hear from people is if they, are upset about a story we covered, or, they don't like what we wore on TV. It's pretty amazing. It's just negative feedback. So when somebody takes the time to write a nice handcrafted thank you note to the reporter, say, thank you so much for doing this story. I really appreciate it. Anything you need, contact me. That goes a long way. And then just work on harnessing that relationship, just like most people do with their clients, and they have all these lunches and sales calls. You need to do that with a journalist, and just make sure you maintain those relationships, because once they interview you and you do a good job and you share it out on social media, if they have an opportunity to do another story with you, they're going to call you, because they know that you made yourself available, you had a good interview, you were pleasant, And you're a perfect interview for these journalists because you make their job a lot easier.
Absolutely. And you come across differently than everyone else. Everyone is negative and you're positive and you're acknowledging what they do because they work very hard. Alison, you know this. Outstanding. Is there anything else around media and PR, that I have not asked you about that you wish business owners who are getting started, could focus on or need to do or need to avoid?
I think they need to really focus, and myself being a business owner, we spend so much time obviously paying attention to our clients and our customers, which is great, but we tend to forget about our own brand and trying to get ourselves out there in the media. And so if you can be, one of the thousands who are pitching yourself on a regular basis to the media as an expert, you'll set yourself apart because so many business owners are not doing it. So take the time, even if you have an intern or somebody who can help kind of guide you into, pitching yourself to the media, that's going to help tremendously because you're going to set yourself apart from your competition. The more you're in the media, the more positive press exposure you get, the more reliable and credible you appear. So when you have clients who are potentially looking at hiring you or working with you, and obviously they're going to Google you and they're going to research you, they're going to see that you're the expert and you've been in the media all over the place. So its perception becomes reality. And so if they're looking at you or another agency or company and you're more of that expert, chances of them going with you are far greater. So really spend that time and, whether it's just a couple minutes a day to pay attention to the news to see if there's a way that you can get, some press exposure. And, once you start small, there's no reason why you can't think, national press and international press. There's a lot of opportunities out there for online publications that are looking for experts in your industry to write articles for them, to be contributing writers. And you don't have to pay to do that. Unfortunately, they don't pay you either. But, Entrepreneur Magazine and Inc. Magazine, they take contributing writers. So if you have a good story to tell, you have an opportunity to write for a huge publication. And all of a sudden now, again, you're the expert.
Absolutely. This is incredible. I wish, some of the information you were sharing with me, I had known right at the beginning. It would have set my business in a different course. And I discover these things later on. And I'm glad you are generous with your information. Now, Alison, what would you say is the perfect mindset a business owner could have or should have about PR? Because you and I know that it's not a sprint, but it's a marathon.
Yeah, it is, and it takes a lot of time. So for business owners who are pitching themselves, or even if they're working with an agency, it takes a lot of time. I mean, just for example, yesterday, I think we probably sent an email out to probably 500 producers from all the national media outlets. We heard back from 2, which actually was really good because a lot of times we do this and we don't hear back from any. It doesn't mean that they're not interested in the story. It just means that obviously they're very busy. It may not be the right time for the story. You may need to recraft your pitch and how you're presenting the story. But don't give up because it takes a lot of time. It's a lot of research. It's a lot of pitching. And, don't expect that it's going to happen overnight. A lot of people will come to me and say, well, I want to be on the Today Show. That's possible, but we need to have a really good plan. And we'll try and get you there. And also, I think, if you are working with an agency, be wary of them guaranteeing press coverage because you never can guarantee media coverage. And, you could have the news come out and do a story with you, and they actually may do the entire story, but it may not air because of, breaking news or they ran out of time or something. So, just be wary of people over-promising things because you can never predict what's going to happen in the news.
Incredible. That brings me very perfectly into the next question I had is, if you are a business owner and you are looking to employ the service of a peer, what criteria do you use in identifying who to go with?
I think you have to, you have to see if you have a connection with them because your public relations team is really your right-hand team. So you have your accountants and your attorneys and your CEOs. They're right there with you because if something were to happen good or bad, you need to let them know. They need to know everything. I always say we're kind of like your counselors as well. So really, you have to be able to just be comfortable with them. You have to, just have a connection. I think that's the number one thing. And, just if they're authentic, they're real, follow their blogs, follow their video blogs, make sure that, they're not just somebody who's over-promising things. Look at the press coverage that they've received. Make sure you ask them, do you have contacts? We took on a client in the big data technology industry, and I didn't even know what it was when I first met with them. So that was a big concern. They said, but you don't know our industry. So my answer to them was, well, when I was a reporter, I would interview 3 different companies a day, and I had to learn all about them in 20 minutes and explain to the public in 2 minutes who you are and what you do. So honestly, go with whoever you want, but if you work with an agency or you hire a public relations person, if they were a former journalist, I would seriously consider them, because they know what the journalists need. They've been on that side. And that is a huge thing for them, because a lot of journalists, and they'll admit this, they don't love public relations people, because a lot of PR folks try and, control what the journalists do, and they get in their way and they don't understand. But when the journalists know that you used to be a journalist, everything changes. Like, oh, you get it. You know what we're going through. So, and all of a sudden you form this great relationship. So, make sure you connect, see who they've gotten press for, ask about, who their contacts are, if they're a former journalist, and be ready to put in the work too. I think a lot of business owners, when they hire agencies, they think that that's it. I don't have to do anything, but a good PR agency is going to be in constant contact with you, asking you a million questions, and you're going to need to provide a lot of information. And I think that's a good thing, because again, they're asking all the questions a journalist would ask. So those are the big things that I think companies should consider.
Incredible. Outstanding there, Alison. We know that there will be some people here who certainly want to connect with you and maybe find out how you can work with them. Where can they find you?
Yeah, they can go on my website. It's AlisonMayPR.com. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. It's all Alison May PR. Pretty simple, and I'm on LinkedIn as well. So, yeah, they can just connect with me, send me an email, connect on Facebook or any other social media platforms. We try and put out as much content as possible, and tips and tricks on all different angles, from social media to PR to crisis planning. So anything we can do to help people get going and getting media exposure, we love to do.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. And if you're a business owner, I highly recommend you check out Alison and, just connect with her and find out what the kind of person she is. In fact, if I was to look for another PR this time, I would certainly look out to connect with Alison, because, put aside the work, when you connect with Alison on a one-to-one, which I did before we come on this, is a genuine, happy, cool person. Now, I'm not being paid to say that, but it's just the way it is. So I encourage you to go to this website, which is www.alisonmaypr.com for more information to connect with Alison. Alison, as we come to an end of our time here, what are your thoughts about giving to the community or playing your part in the community?
I think every business owner should give back somehow, to whatever is important to them. I know a lot of businesses probably get a ton of letters and organizations asking for help, but I think if you take one thing that's really important to you and do what you can. So for us, and we focus on, obviously I'm a mom, so I have children, and, there's a local charity here that helps, raise money for children with cancer. And my way of giving back was to sit on the board and do the media for them, to get the press exposure and to give my time to do that, because that's my talent. If I can give that to them and hopefully get, some media exposure that would draw more people into donating to the walk, that's what I can do. Kyle, who I work with, does the same thing for organizations where he does videos. He'll donate video time. He's donating, thousands of dollars to police departments to do videos for them. So the things that you can do, so it doesn't necessarily, if you don't have a lot of money, a lot of business owners, especially starting out, you don't have a lot of money to contribute. So think about, how can you help with your services? What can you do, to help them, that you may not have to necessarily put the check out, but you can use your services to help them raise money. So I think it's important, because, there's so many things that we can do as business owners that can make an impact, and find something that's really important to you and take the time to give back, because we owe that to our community.
Absolutely. And imagine if we all play our part, the politician, the business owners, the faith group, what kind of a world we can create together. Certainly a better place for our children. And I certainly believe that, just like Alison has said.
Definitely.
Incredible. Well, thank you so much, Alison. It's been a great interview, and I'm sure business owners in our audience have a much clearer understanding of the necessary skills and things they need to have in place to get started with PR. So really appreciate you today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is great. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. And once again, if you want to connect with Alison, go to her website. That is www.alisonmaypr.com. And you'll be able to connect with Alison there. And if you are looking to hire a virtual assistant, go to www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com for more information, or just send an email to support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com, and you'll get someone assisting you from there. With that said, guys, today has been a great pleasure talking to Alison Podworski, talking to you about the PR, and I wish you all the success. Like me, I hope you will taking some notes to implement in your business. Once again, thank you so much, Alison. We wish you a great, success in your next adventure.
Thank you.
Awesome. Goodbye for now.